Greetings all Mavericks out there. You're listening to the Hospitality Maverick podcast with me, Michael Tinkser. We are on a mission to inspire leaders and entrepreneurs in the hospitality industry to create heart-centered and profitable businesses from the inside out, the kind that both employees and customers love and support. Today we have a very special guest indeed, Mark McCulloch, the food and drink marketeer, speaker, podcaster, industry expert, mentor and consultant. Mark is the CEO and founder of We Are Spectacular, a food and drink focus agency set up to help you create a stronger brand, more effective marketing and more engaging digital content. And winning the 2018 Restaurant Marketeer and Innovator Award shows that they're doing it well. We got in touch with Mark to talk about We Are Spectacular, brand DNA and marketing not only to your customers but your employees also. Hello Mark, it's a pleasure to have you here at Hospitality Mavericks podcast. I'm really been looking forward to having this conversation with you today because as you know, Mark, when we talk, we go far in different subjects around hospitality industry. We will try to keep it a bit more focused today on talking a bit about your background and marketing and brand and how do you build like a very strong brand around your restaurant business. But let's kick off with you first telling a bit about where you're from, what are you doing, how do you ended up in hospitality?
Definitely. Well, listen, thanks so much for having me. And also, I think if we ever bump into each other or go out for a beer or something, it goes all a bit tangential and ends up in very different places. So we should maybe have recorded some of those as well. That would have probably been quite insightful for people, which is good. But so I mean, I guess we've only known each other not too long, but I think we've had quite a rapid relationship, which has been great, and we've already found some ways to work together. So I think it's just a really positive thing to be introduced to new people and see what they do and just try and collaborate and make great things happen. So, hopefully this is the start of tons and tons of things that we can do together because you do so many things that we don't and you've got so much knowledge in areas that we don't that complements what we do. So, so fantastic. So, so original question in terms of, how did I end up here and doing all this stuff? For me, I won't quite go back to, I was born on a Wednesday and all that stuff. Basically, what happened was I failed, actually, and that's why I'm here. So I failed to do mechanical engineering very well. So it was what my parents wanted for me, and it wasn't really what I wanted. But it seemed like a proper job, But the second choice I had after failing miserably at thermodynamics and fluid mechanics and all these wonderful things was actually music marketing. And then I had an old guidance teacher and he said, I bumped into him. I used to work in a record shop and he used to order his records from me. And he said, I think you should just do marketing wide and then you can always do music marketing later, you can always specialize. So I went along to, university and did that there. And through that, it was called University of Paisley at the time. So it was seen as a bit of a joke to go there. There was lots of jokes going around that you got a pair of Mickey Mouse ears with your degree sort of thing, things like that. But actually it was a great place to go. So went there, lots of investment in it. So we even had the pleasure of being taught by some Harvard lecturers and things like that. So very, very forward thinking as a university. Luckily got the degree and I did a year out at IBM in Greenock in Scotland, and that's where I had my sort of first taste of real industry, real marketing and what that meant. And then sort of moving on from there, I was really lucky to get my first job and it's not terribly PC these days with the way everything is, but there was a magazine called Loaded Magazine, which was one of these lads mags, which was all nudie ladies and punk rock and all these things. And I joined that. That was my first proper job, and I did the student marketing for that. So NME as well, which one of the great music magazines. And that's where I really cut my teeth, trying to make them or help them sell more to students on campus. So there was a lot of real tactical stuff. Actually got the drive time show at my university radio, and I used that as a platform to try and sell more magazines. So a lot of the show was surrounded by the structure of that month or that week's title, and then I could talk about the albums that were in it, the reviews, the this, the that. So yeah, just hacked that a little bit to try and make that work. And then just kind of fast forwarding a couple of agencies and things like that. And I moved down to Milton Keynes. I realised there was no jobs really in Scotland, so I was in London, moved back to Scotland, and then actually ended up in Milton Keynes of all places, with roundabouts and concrete cows and all these things. When we call it the city of dreams, we're still hopeful it'll be the new Silicon Valley, but I'm not sure it'll ever happen. So yeah, did that, and then it started at lastminute.com. So rose from sort of a market manager type on one of the offshoot brands which did experience days like red letter days, so rally days, hot air balloon and stuff like that. And then I went into the mothership, lastminute.com, and rose up to being the head of brand development for the world, actually. So they had lots of things in the Nordics. They had Zuji over in Singapore and Asia. They had an Australian franchise. So it was quite wide and varied. And then from there, I went to Barclaycard, where I did a lot of brand stuff as well. It was very much sort of brand and marketing, and then Barclaycard was more brand. And what I realised when I went to Barclaycard was it was actually about the people. So brand was about people and activating and empowering and engaging people to deliver your brand promise. If a brand's a promise delivered, which is what we talk about here. So there was that. I wasn't much of a banker, didn't like wearing a suit, and I didn't like, sort of being corporate and all these things. It's not really in my nature, but I got a great piece of advice, which was, it's like eating your greens. So, I'd go in, eat my greens, and, I wouldn't like it at the time, but I would feel better after it. And I think that's definitely what happened. I learned a lot there about stakeholder management and how bigger machines, like a financial institution, work. And then went to Yo Sushi. So that's where I get into the world of food and drink. So I wrote them a ransom note as my CV to try and stand out. And it said, help, I've been captured by a bunch of bankers. Can you please help? And then luckily enough, I stood out, and I was very, very drunk actually at Blur in Hyde Park. And I got a phone call saying the CEO wants to see you tomorrow from Yo Sushi. And I was like, oh my God. So I better sober up quickly and get myself sorted. So yeah, went in for that. 5 interviews later, it was quite a harsh recruitment process. I got the job and I ended up on the board there. I think I was about 33. So that was great. That was an amazing time. And then a couple of last jobs before getting into the agency world. So moved from Yo Sushi to a music website, so back to music again, called We7, who was Peter Gabriel. It was his music website. And we flipped that to Tesco, and it became Blink Box Music. And then I'd started this company called Spectacular Marketing only for a few days. And then a job came up at Pret to be the head of marketing for a maternity contract. And I just thought, I've got to try and get that job, because I've been in most of my life, I've been a promotions jockey, and I've just been trying to sell stuff, and it was behind Target and all these things. Whereas with Pret, it wasn't, and it's a very, very, very different role when you go into somewhere that's really successful, and your focuses change, what you do changes, how you plan, the output, all these things that completely changes. And I think I'm definitely a better marketer for that, from seeing that side as well. So yeah, and then started the agency, and sort of here we are 6 years later.
Wow, what an incredible journey. After coming from music into banking, you ended up in the hospitality industry, Mark. And many people say you only go into the hospitality industry if you're really passionate about the hospitality industry, because it's a very, very, very tough business. What was it that made that tick for you and still make you tick, since you're still here? You created your own business that's actually help hospitality businesses improving their brands and grow their businesses.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, to be super honest, I wanted an escape plan from Barclaycard, right? Like I just wanted to like be at the start of Star Wars and jettison out of the spaceship. So that was made me look. And then what happened was I picked up Marketing Week, and in the back was an advert for Yo Sushi, and they wanted a senior marketing manager. And I think at that point, it was less about it being the hospitality industry. I just thought Yo Sushi was such a cool brand, you know? And back in the day, when I first moved to London to work with the music magazines, Yo Sushi was like the coolest place you could go and eat, you know? There was queues round the block at Poland Street. It had robots in the restaurant, which served you. After 9 p.m., I think, if my memory serves me, they actually started sort of swearing at you. Like, so the robots like got a bit rude, after the watershed, which was kind of fun. And, back in the day as well, I think you maybe had a beer tap at your table, and they had a place called Yo Below, which was a karaoke thing. So, from that perspective, I think it was just me. I'm a sucker for a damsel in distress, right? And I think I knew that Yo was cool, and I wasn't convinced it was as cool and as relevant as it should be. So I really went in with that intention, which was I don't think it was getting the credit it deserved for whatever reason, and I wanted to be part of that gang. But then within seconds, really, once I met Robin Rowland and a lot of the team there, Robin, even when he was giving you into trouble for something, still made you feel like the prettiest girl in school, sort of thing. He's got a real knack of still making you feel good, even if you've maybe not done the right thing. And also something that really struck me, I think there was two things actually. One was one of the days I just started. Robin called me into his office, and it was only a small office anyway. It's not like a big deal, but he just called me in. And he says, "I'd like you to meet." I think it was, I might get this wrong, but it was something like Jean Michel. It was a French name. And I was like, "All right, sure." So the guy gives me his card, and he's the CEO of Ping Pong. And I'm like, what the, and because where I'd came from, if you're at lastminute.com, like I still won't book a holiday on Expedia, right? Like they're the enemy, It's like football teams or tribes or gangs or something like that, And same with Barclaycard, if you're Barclaycard loyal, there's no way you're going to go to Lloyd's or TSB. I was a bit like, do you not realise this is like a spy or an infiltrator, And then Robin's like, no, you don't understand. Like we actually all get together and we share information and we all help each other to get people to eat out of home. And I was like, oh, right. And then, so once I started to get that, and it's this whole thing that it's foolish to think that, someone could eat in your restaurant 4 times a day. It just ain't going to happen. So everyone works together, to get people out. And I just thought that was such a refreshing new sentiment. And then also Peter Martin over at Peach at the time, Peter and Christine. Again, I spent a lot of time with them, and they really sort of took me under their wing and told me loads of stuff and introduced me to loads of people in the industry. And just when you got to know more and more and more people, you realised it was quite a small industry and the friendliest, nicest bunch of people you could expect. But then obviously that makes sense because we're the hospitality industry, and so it should be like that. So yeah, and then when I figured it out as well, that the absolute ultimate aim really is to make people happy. Whether it's celebrating something or make them feel good or, whatever it's going to be. When you look through that whole thing, you're like, I'm in the business of making someone happy. Whereas maybe when I was in the financial institution sector and stuff, you could be making someone unhappy because, you were, it's not as bad as this, but a glorified loan shark. But, you're giving people credit that they might not be able to pay back, and that causes problems. What a lovely thing to do with your life, to go out and help people come into places that should make them happier. That feels good.
That's quite funny. I normally always say the hospitality is all about people, food, and the customers, and it's about creating that experience hospitality around it, and that's what's really exciting. But if you're not excited about that, you will not have a strong survival in hospitality, because that's what has to drive you in a way. So I can totally see where you're coming from there, Mark.
Well, I think also in that point though, there is some things that make me slightly sad, which is, there is a lot of people in the industry that aren't food lovers, and there's a lot of business people and things like that. And I think it's just getting that balance right to make sure that you're being commercial, of course, and running your business, but really having people that are truly passionate about food and about customers and being obsessed by that. And I think, when we get a lot of phone calls from people asking us to help their business, we tend to start there and just try and figure out, do these, do the people really care? I mean, do they really, really, really want to make a difference and make people happy? But if it's all about this week's sales and all these things and not willing to invest in great ingredients, invest in the team and all these things, we often say, don't even consider brand or marketing or any of these things, get these things sorted first, because that's really important.
That actually lead me to take us a bit back again and say that you left your normal job as a head of marketing and started your own thing, your own agency. What is your philosophy behind it? I get a bit about is actually making sure that you put people first or make people happy, and then you think about the numbers afterwards, because they will come when you sorted that out. But can you give us a bit more, the structured approach you have and philosophy behind your agency?
Sure. So I always wanted to do this. I had it in my mind from very early. So when I worked for Enemy and Loaded, I worked for an agency. I loved it. The fact, it just was cool. I had back in the day, you had the red Smeg fridge full of beer. You could wear what you wanted. Everyone was, nice to each other and a bit of a little family. I had a really cool orange iMac. I don't know if you remember, like the really old Apple Macs that didn't look like any other computer. Just those types of things, music blaring in the office, and I just thought, I really like this. And also, I don't think I'm that good at working for other people. Like, I don't think I'm particularly good at having a boss. So I think I've always tried to be quite self-aware about these things, and just kind of realised that, longer term, I need to go out on my own. And so I had it noted down for a very long time that this is what I wanted to do. And I knew it was going to be in marketing or brand and actually digital, quite early. However, when I decided that, I was like, I don't know, 23, 24. And it's very different now, because a 22, 23, 24-year-old will be taken pretty seriously if they are running a digital marketing company, or that type of thing. It's a very different world now, whereas back then no one was going to take some guy from a backwater town in Scotland with an okay marketing degree from an okay university. They just weren't going to take it seriously. It just was, and with no experience, pretty much. So what I decided to do was give up some of my time, so have patience and all these things, and spend whatever it was, 10, 15 years on the inside. And, basically, I always saw it, I can always describe it as Super Mario Brothers. So I just saw it as picking up the stars, to get to the end level. And I was okay with that, because every day, if I was having a good day or a bad day or whatever it was, I knew that it was going somewhere, it was going towards something. And so I was, rather than me just doing a job and all the rest of it, every single day I was looking for another thing to learn that I could then use in the future, So I was very, very studious on it. Actually, for some of these companies, I've probably worked harder than I'm working now. Even, certainly lastminute.com, if you cut open my veins, it would have bled pink. I just absolutely adored that company, everything about it. And it was just full on. But it had such a good culture. And I don't think I've ever worked in a place that had such a strong culture. And Brent and Martha, who started it, and are just phenomenal human beings. They gave kids a chance, and they just let you do what you wanted, pretty much. I mean, they give you advice and stuff, but they just let you run, and everyone was kind of the same, and it was a great gang. And if you go back to lastminute.com and you look at the class of 2003 or whatever it was, I mean, actually, a couple of them are working here with me now, but they've all went on to great things, So The Guardian, ITV, Brent started his own thing. Martha's now like the Baroness of Soho, Lady of Soho, and a peer just when you go right through, and it's, most people, if you look at them, they went on to something, Apple, Google, whatever. It's mind blowing. So I think I wanted to recreate a little bit of that as well. Have a nice culture where there's no big bad boss, there's no one breathing down your neck, there's people just bringing their best self to work and giving people enough rope to express themselves. And if they fall short of that, then that's a conversation. But apart from that, we just want people to thrive. So that's what we've tried to build here as well.
We have talked about a couple of times over the last time about the industry has some massive challenges going on right now, raising costs, workforce challenges, etc. And we see some of the big ones has and are still bleeding, and they're closing down restaurants. Coming back to what you said a bit earlier, that there's been some lack of care of things in the industry, like people and food. Do you think that's a consequence of that they are this situation now, or is something else? This is the market, is the economy? What is your view on this?
Yeah, so massively. I mean, yeah, I need to bite my tongue sometimes when I talk about this subject, but I wonder when we stopped caring, and it's a yin yang scenario in that you need the money, you do need the investment, you do need all these things to grow, and that's fine. But I think it's about that balance being in check. And a good example would be the show that's on right now on BBC Two, the £1 Million Menu. I don't know if you've watched this on BBC Two. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah, I've seen a
Yeah.
couple of them.
So I think that's a really, really good example of where potentially it's going right and where potentially it's going wrong. You've got people in a privileged position that are maybe investors, but they might not be food fans. They might not be, customer centric, but there's a lot about the money. And if you look at, some of the trailer episodes that have just happened, and I love the show, by the way, I'm obsessed by it, and it's really nice. We know a few people on it as well, which seems a bit weird seeing them on the telly, but that's quite fun. But, when you go through it, and it's just the number one question is, what's your figures? What's your figures? What's your figures? Because then you've got the investors going in to taste the food. And yeah, there is some customers in the mix and all the rest of it. And it might just be some editing or whatever. But I just kind of think that just maybe because you invest in restaurants, it doesn't make you a food expert. I think it's a lot more 360 than that. So there was an example of one of the chaps went in and he was assessing a vegan thing. And he was a bit like, yeah, I don't really like tofu. And it was like, that's completely beside the point. There's about, 15 million people that do. So from that perspective, the smart move would have been bring some people with you, chefs or vegans or vegetarians that love tofu, then they can tell you if it's good tofu. But I know it's just a TV program and the rest of it, but I think it's indicative. And I think too many restaurant groups or restaurants, etc., they're run as businesses. And it just breaks my heart when I speak to people and, perhaps they're hiring for, I don't know, an NPD person or there's a marketing person, and they're saying, I wonder if we could get cheaper ham. I wonder how much cheese we could take out of that recipe and the customer won't notice. Oh, we've done research groups and the customers didn't notice. And it's like, look, man, we all know that Rich Tea biscuits and wagon wheels and Jaffa cakes are getting smaller, right? And I know you've done it over many, many years, but either my cups are getting bigger, my mugs are getting bigger, or you're taking the mick out of me, So, and I think people are just like, nowadays, I mean, come on, with social media, the fact that we don't eat out once a month, we're eating out every day. A lot of people are anyway, sometimes more than once a day if you're lucky. We're so much more attuned. We're so much more savvy. And, people just know. And I think the best brands in the world are the ones that are doing it with kindness, the ones that are really thinking about the customer, the ones that are adding value, the ones that are putting more on top. And I don't think you can ROI that. I mean, the only way you can ROI it is you're not going to go out of business. But engineering, that word just needs to go out of the restaurant business. We shouldn't be engineering anything. I know there's costs and I know there's limits and, I get all that, but someone literally taking, 0.3 of a gram of cheese or broccoli or saffron, whatever it is, out of a recipe. It's just the wrong way to go about pleasing someone. It doesn't feel generous. It doesn't feel right. So I think there's that. But to your point in terms of the market, what do you think's happened? I mean, there's a bit of a pun in here, but I think people got greedy, right? So some of these restaurant chains, they've got no business having 80 units, right? And what happens is they pick the wrong, they make bad decisions because the investor or the management team, something like that, they're basically saying that'll do. So we must have a site in Bath. They've got it in their pipeline. We must have a site in Bath. Oh, do you want that site that's behind two bins and 100 yards off the pitch? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's cheaper. Because it's cheaper, we'll make more. And yeah, no, you won't. It just, and it's kind of like how many times? So I think, I think it's just that time's over where you can go fast expansion. I think it's about doing a few really well and actually diversifying your estate. What is right for that town or that city, or, I think that one size fits all. I think its days are numbered
Yeah.
because, I don't think, I think people are looking for different things and different experiences, and anything that seems automated or, cookie cutter,
Yeah.
it just seems disingenuous, I think.
I was talking or interviewing actually the other day Andreas Carlson from Sticks and Sushi, the COO,
Oh yeah,
and
he's awesome.
he's a really awesome, and he said that when I asked him about so how do you roll out this concept, he said, I need to correct you there. We are not
Mm,
doing rollouts. We are taking one restaurant and we're doing it very well from the bottom up when it comes to to the food, to the employees and the customers, and we don't continue before we got it right,
yeah.
and we don't do the same at every location. That was very interesting, and I know that's how also you go restaurants. With my mom and dad ran their restaurants. They didn't
Mm,
say we want to do a rollout. They took one at a time, made it work, and then they moved on. And they had a diversified portfolio, as you can say. They did everything from from a pub to a little cafe and stuff like that. So it was a very different way of operating a business than this cookie cutter, which I think a bit like people got a bit, thought we can all do the McDonald's and Domino's and things like that, and you can only do that when you have a certain kind of product. When if you really
yeah.
want to create hospitality, it's a very different thing in a way.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Andreas is right, and I just get so much love and respect for that man. He's amazing. And, he's just absolutely bang on, and he's no fool. And I think Sticks and Sushi are doing a great job. I think Dishoom, are doing a great job. And, and people are just seeing through it, So I think, if you were starting a restaurant now and looking to, make whatever you want to make and grow to whatever you want to grow, I just think the path to doing that is very, very, very different. But the good news is, that's kind of how we've got a job, because, if people made great decisions all the time, they probably wouldn't need marketing, or, they would have got the right property, and, I'd be selling the big issue. So, you've got to be thankful for it. But I think also, like, the whole kind of the market stayed the same pretty much. It's been, talking to Peter Martin the other week, and, by and large, it's still reasonably flat. There's no disaster, there's no crash, but it's just that everyone got greedy. There's just too much choice for everyone now, and everywhere you go, you've got 15 choices. So naturally, things are going to go down. And there was a funny point. I was at a conference. I think it was maybe CGA's conference in November or October or whatever. There was a guy, Roger from Box Park, was on. So he's the MD of that, and that's another really interesting concept. But he said, like for likes needs to be banished, because no such thing exists. I mean, it was a kind of spiky point, and some people bought it and some people didn't. But I
Hmm.
think it was a interesting thought, which was, there's no like for like. The next day, if Nando's opens across the road from you and you're all about chicken, then you're gonna feel it. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, so I think people got greedy, Therefore, there's too much supply, but there's the same demand. And obviously, costs are going up. So it's not a great equation, really.
So how, in your view, what is this? If you just should short say the secret is ingredients to build, a brand of the future in hospitality. What is the secret ingredients from your point of view when you're talking about creating brands?
It's smashing together your passion, and what you're good at, and and what you want to do, and all the rest of it. Because I think a lot of the best ones they've came from a genuine passion, you know. Because so you could go the other way, right? You could go commercial, and you could sit down and say, let's map out the entire restaurant marketplace, and then you go, oh, there's a need for, I don't know, deep fried Mars bars or whatever it is, right? So, you could map it out, and you could get a space, but you've got to ask yourself, are you really passionate about that?
Yeah.
And also, although there's a gap in the market, is there a market in the gap? When you look at the whole thing, so I think someone that comes into the market genuine, so if it is, I don't know, Korean or Thai or whatever, and it's already busy in terms of the marketplace, I still think that's okay, because if you've got your own view in it, if you've got your own tastes and flavours and slant and all the rest of it, then you might very well nail it. I think on top of that, you've got to have real brand single mindedness. So sticking to your guns. What do you believe in? What do you stand for? And what will you never compromise on? And these are almost personal values, I guess, when you're starting out. But what happens over time is, it's right, we're all about authentic, fresh, blah, 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 whatever else. And then authentic becomes, oh, we're at scale now, so we need to go to a mass producer and get it shipped in. Fresh, well, we used to make our burgers on site, but now, do you know what? There was a really good deal and kind of tastes similar with the frozen ones. And you're just edging away, all these things. And then I think it's about the positioning of the brand, what is it in the role of the customers? And then looking at it now, how shareable is it? How is it fitting people's lives now? And meeting customers in the middle as well, what do they want to achieve? And on top of that as well, thinking about the other verticals, travelization, where are the growing markets? It's going to be drive-throughs and roadside and travel hubs, and all these things are going to get premiumized, and the Deliveroo market and all that type of thing. You're just going to have to live with the fact that Deliveroo are there and that they could be a high percentage of your sales. So how can you make sure that that works too? So I think it's that really good, strong idea that people will, what's your craveable product? What would I drop everything for to go and have that thing? And then you can sort of build from there. But I don't think it needs to be a completely unique idea. I think it's just, if you're doing it brilliantly and you're doing it with heart and you're doing it in a genuine way, I think you could beat a lot of the competition out there, because people are searching for genuine experience and stories.
So, if you just to mention a brand you think that does that really well in the moment in the industry, who would that be?
I think there's some interesting ones out there. I think you've got Dishoom, obviously. I think they are just so true to what they're doing. Even so much so that, the other night, I think there was maybe even a staff party. It was all like, it's kind of like huge Indian celebration, and it was all on Instagram and stuff. It just makes you feel good. The fact that they're living and breathing it every day, and it's even small things, right? That the job titles are kind of in Indian. I think Sarah over there, if she doesn't mind me saying, I think hers is like Chattiwala or something like that, Chattiwala. And just that sort of stuff matters. I would like to think that those guys would die before compromising. It feels that way. I think it feels that way. I think Hawksmoor are the same all the way through. Also, do you know what? If you go the other end of the scale, I think Wagamama. Like, I think, what David, built there before he, sort of left. And what Jane's continuing to do, and you can see it, Jane just got voted top female CEO within the top 100 CEOs in the UK at least. It might even be more than that. So, she's done a great job there. The team there, I mean, sure, they've got the budgets and all the rest of it, but it's dead easy to waste a lot of money as well, but they spent it at the right places, so much so that they even, moved the kitchens of a lot of the branches and of the restaurants into the window so that the guys and girls were doing their prep in the window so that when people were walking past going about their business, they could see all the fresh stuff getting made and being prepped and all the rest of it. And it's just things like that that you just go, oh, wow. And I was going to say whether it's true or not. I mean, it is true. It's there in the window for you to see. They're doing it. And of course, they've got to do it at scale and, it might not be, made every single day and all the rest of it. I think, someone like Jamie's is on the comeback trail. It's going to be interesting to see, but by his sort of speech on Sunday Brunch and in Saturday Kitchen, it looks like he's getting back in amongst it and talking about authenticity and how they're making fresh pasta on every site, every type of pasta. That's what they're doing. So, so I think you can see that the more sensible people are going for that authentic route. There's a couple of ones to watch at the moment as well. I think there's a battle for some Thai stuff. I think Rosa's Thai has just got investment and Robin Rowland's chairman in that. So that's going to be interesting to see. I think, you've got Greyhound Cafe as well. Basaba's, continuing to sort of recapture a lot of what was going on before, and doing it successfully. So, I think Thai's one to watch as well, in terms of the flavours and the taste and experience and all these things. So I think that's going to be super interesting to see. But yeah, I'd say those are the main ones that spring to mind right now. Oh, I tell you who actually is a good one. Iberica.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know them. So they're Spanish tapas, and spent a bit of time with them and stuff. But oh my god, they mean it, man. I mean, like the lengths that they go to and the stories that they have for
Yeah.
the ham that they're serving and the cheese and the why and the wines and the and actually part of the thing there is more people need to know this, so it's that weird juxtaposition where you want to be humble but also you need to tell people. So it's kind of tough, because you sound too braggy if you really go on about it. You sound too salesy. But I think it's just that one by one customer, meal at a time, get them to share their experience. So I think there's that. And then, obviously where we are down in Brighton, I mean, yeah, there's a ton of great stuff going on down there, but they're more like one restaurant propositions. And I think it's, it's not easy, definitely at that level, but it's easier to be more authentic when everyone's hands on. I think it's when you get to site 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's where the rubber hits the road, if you like.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think we need to have some more podcasts together because we're running out of time here, Mark.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
that's
I've been
okay.
told, but that's okay because there's so much interesting in coming out of this conversation. But we're gonna have another one where we're gonna talk
I'm
a bit
sure.
more deep about the brand DNA, but. Always in the end of any podcast interview we do here at Hospitality Mavericks, we ask people to, if you only have to give one advice to somebody that wanted to jump into the hospitality sector, and it could be with the marketing angle or the brand angle, what would that advice be?
Don't do it, man. No, I'm joking. What would my advice be? My advice would be.
Call Mark.
Well, no, I'm just trying. I'm just trying to think. I mean, it would just be a big warm hug is sort of waiting for you. I think the industry, the joy that you'll get from joining this industry will far outweigh most other industries that I could think of. I think the great thing with this industry as well is you don't necessarily really have to be qualified. I think because of the nature of operations in the restaurant industry, there's not a lot of money sometimes going round. So you will get exposed to so many things that you won't believe. Whereas if you were in a larger organization, you wouldn't get to touch for 10 years. So it's almost like a mini MBA. So I guess my advice would be, just network, get yourself a pass to or pay to, come along to either Propel or CGA or MCA or any of these things do you know what? Just hook up with all the foodies on Instagram. They're so easy to find. Tell them that you want to meet them for a coffee. Tell them, that's actually advice. Just reach out to all the brands that you love. Find out on LinkedIn who the people are. Then go to LinkedIn and Instagram, etc. Drop them a message, and out of 20 of them, I bet you get 10 or 12 beers or free meals or coffees, and they can give you advice about, how to get into the industry if that's what you want to do. The last thing is, if you're a brand and wondering what to do and what your first step would be, just get your brand DNA straight. So get it sorted in terms of who are you for, who are you targeting, what's that one type of customer, what is it, and not, oh, we do burgers, and we do this, and we do that, and one thing. Be single-minded about what you do. Don't stray from your values. Die before you'll, compromise on those. And I think, that's a good lesson in life. So, yeah, get that sorted, and just use social better.
Yeah,
I think as well. I think there's a lot of white noise out there. So there's real opportunities for people to use social brilliantly. That's for sure.
I knew you would bend this rule with one piece of advice, but that's okay. They're all brilliant advice, by the way. So we are at the end here, Mark, today. So thank you so much for your time and your brilliant insights on marketing, the industry, and what you think is that people need to do right now to be successful in the industry.
Well, bless you. Thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, obviously we'll get you on an episode of our podcast too. And then, I'm sure there'll be many, many more conversations over the years. If people can stomach listening to that, that would be great to come back on sometime.
Oh, we have one we need to do is in how to build, a strong employer brand. That's what we need to have a chat about. But yeah, we'll save that for another one.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, good. Well, take care, Mark. Speak to you soon. That's all we have time for today. Thanks again, Mark, for sharing your marketing insight and tips for the hospitality industry. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like, share, subscribe, or even better, tell us what you think. What are the best ways that you can create a strong brand DNA for your business? Thank you to Laura from Let's Talk Video Production to help make these podcasts happening. We hope you have enjoyed today's Hospitality Maverick podcast with me, Michael Tingsager. Tune in next time for more great insights, and in the meantime, find out more about us at hospitalitymavericks.com. Thanks for listening, and be Maverick.